Good morning. It is Black Spring with Autumn on your Monday. Hope everybody's doing well out there. I just want to say, hope you guys have had a great weekend. And I don't know, occasionally, you know, I catch 60 minutes. I catch 60 minutes, right? I mean, it's to me, it's not a show that I would, it's not on my list. I don't typically watch mainstream news or media. But in this case, I was curious about the interview that 60 Minutes featured Coach Prime, Deion Sanders of the Jackson State Tigers. Okay. So I just want to say, it started out, they give you a little landscape, literal landscape. And of course, they talked about, which to me, the first thing they talked about was basically how Jackson State is very close to, you can, not far from the school or the campus, you can witness poverty and those elements, okay? But that's really not that much different than being able to see Watts very near you know, in the very near adjacent future in USC. That would be University of Southern California. Okay, so you have that blight. You have blight everywhere. Okay, it's not just in Jackson, Mississippi. Okay, it's not just an HBCU. It's not just an HBCU that you can identify near poverty. You can also identify a USC next to a housing project. Okay, so they first started out with that, and I found, to me, I don't find that there's a whole lot of that these interviewers that they have on these major networks, they don't really do their interviews. To me, they're kind of disingenuous, and they're really kind of I don't know, it's almost kind of like mocking, like I don't, you know, I think that Coach Prime has been on these networks before, but my issue with the interview, one of the main issues is that, I know Coach Prime talked about, he's got a lot of positive vibes going on there. He's had a lot of challenges himself, and a lot of people suspect that he got the mocktail. Okay. Now, I'm trying to stay away from that issue, but a lot of people are saying for him to have the BCs, okay, but the turf injury, he sustained that like decades ago, right? So all of a sudden within the demic, I'm just saying people have posed that question. I've seen that on social media as well. Not a lot. However, one of the things that stood out to me the most, two of the things, okay, they interviewed, I think, his son Shedeur Sanders, and they interviewed very briefly, and they interviewed their number one recruit, Travis Hunter, okay? And in that, they tried, okay, of course, they interviewed Coach Prime. Okay, so let's go back. As I was just saying, they gave you landscape where they showed you the blight near the campus of JSU. And I also just gave you an example of where blight can be found near a paradise-looking school, the school gates of Watts in Southern California, USC. You could throw a rock from there, okay, at USC, okay? So here's the situation where this is the problem. Like, the interview opens up, okay, well, you took this position shortly after the GF, the George Floyd situation. I'm like, okay, so what exactly, can you make the correlation? If you're going to open that up, what are you inferring? Bring it out, okay? Because there's a lot, he didn't mention BLM. Okay, so go ahead and expound on what you were trying to say, sir. And to me, Coach Prime didn't really even go, he just said, I wanted to make a difference. And he stuck to and that's why I applaud him for sticking. He stayed on topic the whole time. Like, look, I wanted to make a difference. I'm not one of these people that sit around and talk about what I want to do, what I'm going to do. I do it. Okay. So they didn't make it about that situation, which I was wondering, okay, this is where I'm getting ready to, this martyr kind of stuff. This is where I'm about to shut this off. Okay. I didn't get on that. Okay. We all know the psychological, and we also know that the propaganda that has been exposed on that, not to mention the other findings on BLM, okay, that have been discovered, or some that people already knew about. But then the second thing was, okay, three things. Hunter was asked, oh, well, why did you choose, the elite? Why didn't you go with the elite Power 5 schools or da 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 da? And he says that, he wanted to have an impact, or he wanted his choice to influence, other students. And he also said Coach Prime, I believe, number one. And then basically he said he wanted to have an impact as well. Okay. So good morning, Marcy T. Okay. So we go on from that. And then, so we keep going. And then of course they're talking about the resources, and they're talking about, how the Power 5, SEC type schools, the Big 12, they've got this compared to this. We don't have this, we don't have that. Okay. And then he finally says that they had just gotten another big recruit who actually, they were right next, I guess the competitor was UA. And so the kid actually, they got a big, I guess maybe a 3-star or something, that actually chose them over like a UA or another school. Good morning, Charlie Siegler. But then the final piece was Coach Prime says, I just want to see, because he says that they have a $4 million budget. JSU has a $4 million football budget. And then he goes on to say he just wanted to see if some billionaire would basically pick up JSU and take a chance on them. Okay. But then what I say is, okay. And then of course, they tried to keep the whole Marxist, because we live in a world of narcissist and Marxist. Okay, everybody is based on literary theory. The elite literary theory is running the whole world, no matter what. Okay, so he goes on to say that he wants to see if somebody would pick up JSU, they would get another sponsor, because they also mentioned in the video that Coach Prime mentioned that the high schools in Texas were in much better shape. The high schools alone, not their sports facilities, not the school sports facilities, they were in better shape than JSU. Okay, so then he says, okay, and now I'm kind of all over the place. But then he goes back to the number one pick, who happens to be Travis Hunter. And Travis Hunter, he talked about, here comes the interviewer from 60 Minutes. He says, oh, and also Travis Hunter made the comment after he said he wanted to make he wanted to go there because of Coach Prime. He wanted to go there because to make an influential in his choice to go to JSU versus Florida State University, which Coach Prime went to previously in his own career. And then he says, then the interviewer says something like, I'm paraphrasing. He says, oh, well, and Travis Hunter says, well, I wanted to also be an example, or I want to show things to our people. So, of course, here comes this interview, this hokey-looking interviewer. He says, what the interviewer says to Travis Hunter, the number one pick. He says, African Americans. And see, I'm trying to make a couple points here. Okay, so the interviewer initially tried to set the tone by making this about, he tried to throw the George Floyd wrench in there. He doesn't know what the guy says when he says my people. And then Coach Prime says, he wanted to see if a billionaire would pick up the team just to see what the results would be if he had a budget that was similar to those of the elite. But here's my problem, okay? That all of that, okay? I think that the same elite that they're talking, that if you can be deprived, you got to realize that Coach Prime is an elite himself. Let's just be clear first and foremost. Okay? He took his influence and even some of his own salary and donated it back to this university's football program. Okay, but then why not start with the interviewer's not going to say, see, this is how you know these interviews, this is how you know how valuable or how deep the interview is going to go. Why didn't nobody ever ask, there are billionaires that happen to be black. So rather than having a Beyonce and a Jay-Z throw crumbs or a P. Diddy throw crumbs, which is basically like $1 million, why they alone could give that school an endowment. They alone. You got what? The Oprah Winfrey's, the Jay-Z's, you've got the P. Diddy's, you've even got Nas, you've got, and I just named, not even to mention, I didn't even throw in LeBron James. You've got all these people that are actually, that are in that billionaire rack themselves. And what are they doing? They throw the school a few crumbs and then you say, quote, oh, the oppressor. We want the oppressor CEOs to sponsor us. I just say, to me, it gets to be a little bit double speaking. It gets to be a little bit hypocritical because the same people that you're asking for it's already there. So it's like, in a way, it's like you're being used as a tool. It's kind of looking like it's going to expose things, but it's also going to expose things about, quote, your people. It's going to expose things. Because there's the entertainment industry. First of all, they're controlled. They can't help. Okay? They can't. And as a part of the narrative, they've got to, the narrative is you gotta keep asking people, because the people that are in these entertainment industries, they're not allowed to spend their money on that. Look at Kanye West. And shout out to Mr. Pearson. He made a point about that alone. You don't want to see any change. And especially, the people, the background that you're saying that need the help, they're exempt because they cannot. They are controlled. They are controlled by the same people that brought them on. They cannot give any assistance. If it is, it's very minimal. It's peanuts. Okay? $1 million from any of these entertainers, if 10 of them gave $1 million, over the course of 10 of them gave $1 million or 20 of them gave $1 million, they could have an endowment. But then you can't just say you're going to fund JSU. If this is the way you're going to go about it, then that means you got to do something for all the others, right? For the other HBCUs too. It's not just them. So this is what I'm saying. I just don't know how impactful these interviews can be if the same elite that you're complaining about are the same elite that are controlling not only the narrative, but they're controlling the amount of influence and the amount of power, money and power and influence are what's going to what makes the change. Okay. And I've said this before, I will maintain this. The HBCU was originally a école normale. It was a teacher's college. It was never designed. There was never a goal for them to be a pipeline to the NFL or even any of the SEC schools. It was to train teachers. And that meant it was to educate the community. It was an educational tool. It was never meant to be a pipeline to New England schools. It just wasn't, okay? It wasn't. And I'm saying these types of interviews, to me, they will never be as impactful because the the control that exists, the handlers, the controllers, they already know exactly. They know exactly. You never hear, or you rarely hear. Let me not use the word never. Let me be careful with the word usage here. You rarely hear people of Black or African Americans look back, let the mirror reflect back what's in front of them. You don't see that. You have enough billionaires that could create an endowment. You have, between the billionaires and even the millionaires, you could have an endowment if that's exactly what the goal was. I mean, JSU, ASU, Alabama A&M, Delaware State, Tennessee State, these schools have, and that's not even all of them. The Howard universities, all these schools have been around since the 19th century. If that was the goal, if advanced, we're not talking about NAACP. It should be the BAACP, right? There's been enough money and enough power and influence, since the 40s for there to be an endowment. But because they know what the opposition is, they know that there's controlled opposition, it's never going to change. So I said, that's what I wanted to come on about. I'm saying these interviewers, you could just tell that journalism, where it is these days, it's all ideological, and that's all they set you up for the answer that they want you to, for what they already know. They're not trying to discover anything new. This was less about informing people. These interviews are less expository, is what I'm saying. They may offer some level of explanation, but a lot of times they don't give context. Okay, they're not. I'm saying it's less. They're less. I get a real interview and then get some truth, get some real. Let's find out why it's not happening. Let's find out why it's not happening. Let's not just keep asking. Why don't you ask everybody? And he said, Coach Prime said billionaire. So the billionaires wouldn't be limited to just corporations, right? So I don't know. What are they anticipating? Are they expecting, Jeff Bezos to come out and say, okay, I'm going to sponsor them? Is that what they're expecting? And not to mention the amount of abuse. I mean, Coach Prime, he's in a very precarious situation. And I said, I'm not going to offer my opinion on whether I think he got the mocktail, because I could say a lot about that. But I think you already know. I think you all, if you watch this show, you already know. Because BC's, he's been healthy and he's in great. Yeah, he has stayed in pretty great shape. Okay. He has back days in his workout. Okay. He's not looking like Elvis when he puts his hands on his hip, in his words, as I paraphrase. No, he's not in bad shape by any stretch. Okay. But that's the truth about that is stranger than fiction. Okay. So I'm not going to go into that, but I'm just saying people on social media have posed the question. They have. Okay. And also I think there was another fact, if they were running his career down, the irony was that not only, of course, was he an NFL player, Hall of Famer, and played Major League Baseball, he allegedly, if I'm not mistaken, he played the World Series on the same day. He did the two sports in the same day via plane ride. So I'm just saying, I just think that these interviews and this whole control mechanisms, hopefully people will start to see that, people can be stifled even in a situation like this. You can be stifled. And you still have to bring it back to yourself. Why aren't more of the alum, Why aren't more of them supporting the schools? You had the Walter Paytons, and you just had a lot of people. But that's not going to come up, because that means, because that would bring some accountability, and that would take down, some people have figured out how other groups or cultures that want to try to sustain something or build something, I'm just saying, but do your own research. You don't need to take my word here per usual. But I just wanted to talk about that little interview, because to me it was kind of hokey. The guy was, I'm not saying he can't smile or he can't laugh, but I just find that the questions, there's no deeper understanding there. There's no depth to these interviews. The hard questions. Not the powder puff questions, but the ones that everybody want to know. The unspoken, I just want to ask the unasked questions, or the unanswered question. Charles Ives, not Charles Ives, the unanswered question, but 60 Minutes, the unanswered questions. Because you got to ask them first, right? The unsung answers, might reveal something. And that's why it's not going to be asked. They're going to remain unanswered. All right, guys, I appreciate you so much for coming in. And I just want to say, I had to check in with 60 Minutes. And hope you guys are doing well. I'm sure there's more things will shake loose this week. I think you keep your eye on economics, because I think that's going to be one of the ones. And I'll see you guys later. We'll see what happens this week. I think I did see Ben Bernanke come on to 60 Minutes, like shortly after that. I don't know, it was bizarre. Like I said, I'm not a fan of 60 Minutes, for all intents and purposes. But yeah, even when they interviewed this current regime in the White House, they're just very, very empty and very, you know what I mean. Because for one, they're going to get if they push a little bit, they get a cantankerous response from a cantankerous personality. So I don't know. All right, guys, have a great start to your Monday. Thank you, Marcy T. Let me see who came in. Marcy T, Charlie Siegler. Oh my gosh, Freedom's March was here. How are you doing, Freedom's March? How are you? So I just want to thank you guys so much for coming in. And and the other point I wanted to make before I go, this was the other one, is that they keep trying to put this narrative up there, but it was almost like when Travis Hunter, the number one pick, when the interviewer said, "What people? Who are the people?" And it was almost like he was afraid to say African Americans. See, you see what I'm saying? If you believe in what you say, then you should say it with pride, right? You should say it with a prideful way. Don't put it out there and walk away from it. Don't put it out there and start backing away. Like, don't drop it like a fire, like a bomb, and then drop and just run. No, say it loud, say it proud. If that's your cause, say it with some kind of pride. Because otherwise, to me, it just makes this thing kind of futile. Okay? That's all I'm saying. All right, guys. I appreciate it once again. Sorry for that last nugget, but I had to bring it up. Say it loud. Say it proud. But I got to go, guys. Have a great day.